It's Wednesday, July 30th, 2003, and we're at the Atlanta History Center in Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Diane Bailey. We're taping an oral history of Frank Mitchell Maloof. Mr. Maloof, will you introduce yourself, please? Tell us where and when you were born.
My name is Frank Mitchell Maloof. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia on May the 14th, 1922.
With us in the room today is also Mr. Maloof's daughter, Pam, and Pam will be introducing the rest of the family members who are here watching.
Okay.
So today we have my mother, Dolores Maloof. We have my sister, Judy Maloof Winstel. We have my sister, Rita Maloof. We have my sister, Laura Maloof Grunow, and her husband, Bob Grunow, who may also be helping with this taping. We have my brother, Steve Maloof, and that is our family.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Mr. Maloof, I'd like to get started. How did you come to serve in the armed forces? Did you enlist? Were you drafted?
I was drafted.
You got one of those wonderful letters that says, "Greetings."
Greetings.
And how did your family and how did you feel about that at that point?
Well, I was expecting it, and I was waiting on it, and when it came, I announced it to the family that the letter has arrived, and now is the time. That was more or less the whole story.
Where did you do your basic training?
At Camp Walters, Texas. It's an infantry outfit.
And when you finished your basic training, you were assigned to what unit, what division, when you were deployed?
The 7th Infantry Division.
184th,
184th Infantry.
6th Army.
6th, 7th, 6th Army.
6th Army.
Okay. She knows more than I do.
Tell me where you served. After you were deployed, where were you shipped to?
Well, I started out at a basic training camp, of course. That was at Camp Walters, Texas. And help me out, somebody.
42.
42? 1942. And from there, I went to several different units. Primarily, it was always coming back to Camp Walters. And
I think next you were in Fort Ord.
Fort Ord, California, Seattle, Washington. Actually shipped out of Seattle. That's where we went overseas. We left Seattle, Washington to go overseas. And I guess we'll go from there. When we went overseas, I went directly to, gosh, you're going back, I don't know how many years. This was back in
43.
1943.
Right.
So that's a lot of years back.
Went to the Aleutian Islands.
Oh yeah, well that's the first place they sent me was to the Aleutian Islands. And we stayed up there for several months. And because I don't have to tell you about Alaska, it was kind of cold up there at times. But it was a real experience. We had no action there. The Japanese had left the island, and when we got there, they had evacuated. Thank God. And we stayed there for a while and waiting to see if they were going to come back or where they went. And we never did have to worry about that part of it. But from there, from from there.
Where did you think you were going next when you left Alaska?
I had no idea. I mean, they just, at that time, they didn't know what they were going to do with everybody. And we were just sitting there just waiting for orders. And eventually they came back, and we still stayed there for a while. And the next thing we know, we got shipped out again. This time we went to, from there we went to,
You thought you were going to go back to the mainland?
oh yeah, well, that's the first thing we always thought of. Well, they're through with us right now. They're going to let us go back to the States. And we thought we were going to board the ships and head back to San Francisco. And of course, we boarded the ship all right, but it didn't head for San Francisco. And we were all disappointed temporarily. And then again, we said, well, we figured something was going to happen. So we ended up going right back to where we started. And they took us back into camp again. And so we were wondering what in the world they're going to do now. We said, typical Army, they never know what they're going to do next. And so we ended up back at the same camp we started. And we stayed there for a while, and then all of a sudden some orders came and they shipped us to different places. I eventually left there and went to Seattle, Washington. Stayed in Seattle for a long time. And from Seattle, we went to Alaska. And that was our first overseas trip. We got to Alaska. We were expecting to encounter the Japanese. However, I hate to say this, but making a joke out of it, but we were so happy. They heard we were coming, so they left. And we were glad they left. These are facts. But anyway, so
when you left Alaska, you went
we left Alaska,
to Hawaii.
and then we went to Hawaii. That's right. They froze us to death in Alaska, and then they sent us down to Hawaii to thaw out. That's what we were all making jokes about. And it was nice to get down to that warm climate. And we got down there, and I thought we were going to see the hula girls and everything. And what did we see? We saw an army camp. But it was nice. It was, considering where we were and everything else, everything was just super great.
You were stationed at Schofield Barracks?
Schofield Barracks.
What was your job? What was it like?
Well, I was in the infantry, and I'd just been recruited, so I was buck private, and that's an honor to be a buck private, I'll tell you. And we stayed there and trained and trained and trained and trained. We trained for 5 or 6 weeks at a time, and then we'd leave there and go. They'd ship us out to Seattle somewhere, and we'd train up there for a while. So we said, well, they're trying to prepare us for weather all over the place because they don't know where they're going to send us. And we didn't know whether they're going to send us to Alaska or whether we were going to be in the middle of the Pacific, you know what I mean, in the Pacific Islands there where it's hot. And so as it turned out, they ended up sending us up to Alaska, and we stayed up there for a while, training all this time, training, and we thought maybe we were never going to get to war. But they believe in that training, and the training was real good. You don't realize it at the time, but what they're doing is absolutely what they should be doing. They got us all prepared, and we were ready. So we stayed there for a while, and then from there, from Seattle, gosh.
So after you went to the Hawaiian Islands and Schofield,
Yeah.
then the next place you went after that was, I believe, to Inuitak?
Inuitak, that was in Alaska.
Wasn't that in
And the
Philippines?
Aleutians. Inuitak. That was in the Aleutians. In the Aleutian Islands. And first got up there, the weather was altogether different. It was cold, and it was the most hideous place I'd ever been in my life.
And are you talking about where it was?
In Alaska, yeah. So,
About what time was that? Because you had been back and forth with training,
yeah.
and about what year are we up to? Or are we still in 43, 1943?
43. You're still in
So
43.
you still haven't seen or you still
Oh,
haven't
no.
seen action yet?
No action.
When
But
did
we're-
you first see action? Where did they ship you that you first saw action?
Well, it's a long story. They shipped us all around to different camps, but we were training in every different camp. There was a different area, a different attitude, altitude, and everything else. We didn't know where they were going to end up sending us. They were getting us used to cold weather and hot weather and all that kind of stuff, and just acclimatizing us, you might say, which makes good sense when you stop and think about it. But anyway, we went back to, if I remember correctly, we went back to Schofield Barracks. And that was down in San Francisco. Schofield Barracks was in Hawaii, rather. And
where was the first battle that you saw battle? That was in Kwajalein?
no, the first battle was in Kisker.
Yeah, but that was
Supposed to be.
Alaska.
That was in Alaska, but that was supposed to have been a battle. We got up and the Japs had left. They left the day before we got there. And we were so happy. But we were happy and we were sad because we were looking forward to a big fight. And but anyway, after we left there, we came back to Honolulu, I think it was. Now my timing might be off because this is many years ago.
I understand you went to Kwajalein?
Oh yeah, I was
And
definitely.
you went to Iwo Jima?
I was at Kwajalein and Iwo Jima, yeah.
Can you tell us about those experiences?
Well, Kwajalein was, we were lucky there. We didn't have much action there. We didn't lose any soldiers. And it was very sparsely thing there. We didn't have too much of a fight there. And when we left there, we always came back to like a home base. We'd always end back to where we started. I mean, like coming right on back to California and get ready just and get training again for something else. And we, not knowing anywhere we were going. No, government never let us know where we were going. And it was good that way because that way we could notify our families where we were headed. But now you can think about things like that and say, well, they were right. But we were pretty mad at them at the time because we wanted to know where we were going. But anyway, we got back aboard ship and did our regular things at the board ship. We played cards and told stories and jokes with each other and all that kind of stuff aboard ship. And we never did go to sleep or nothing. We just slept on the deck. We'd sleep out on the deck itself when we were aboard ship. And
So it sounds like you made some good friends.
oh yeah,
Some good comrades that you served through the war.
with most of the same people.
Mm-hmm.
These were the ones we went through the whole basic training and everything else. We were all together all the time. And
Have you stayed in touch with any of those men, or is that just something that they didn't do?
I stayed in touch with them all the years I was in the service
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. We corresponded and everything. And I'm still in touch with some of them. But it was an experience that you never forget. Met some of the greatest people in the world.
Can you tell me something about Iwo Jima?
Not a whole lot, because just like I said, when we got there, I mean, we didn't have any action on Iwo Jima ourselves. I mean, my division we got there, then the fighting was already over. And so there wasn't a whole lot we could do except clean up, you might say. We kind of a cleanup crew, clearing out all the dead bodies and burials and things like this, and that's the bad part of a war.
It was an extremely difficult period,
Right.
extremely difficult thing to have to do.
Right, especially when you know they're your buddies. You just put them in the ground.
Did you have any idea while you were doing all the traveling back and forth and the training and now over to Kwajalein and Iwo Jima that you were participating in something that was going to be such an important part of history?
Oh no, not at that time. I mean, it was just one of those things, well, this had to be done. And we did what we had to do. I think that's the way most fellows took it.
They were proud to serve their country.
Oh yeah,
And keep us
yeah.
free.
right, absolutely. I don't know of a soul that was regretted it. I mean, serving like we did.
You have several commendations and letters, and I guess I could say that you were a well-decorated military hero.
Well, yeah, I wasn't a real hero. I was just a soldier like everybody else.
Anybody that went,
Yeah.
served the country, protected us, and came back, that's a hero.
That's it. That's true.
Would you like to tell us about the medals and tell us where you received them and why you received them? What had happened?
Well,
Got names on the back.
oh, thank goodness they got some names on them. First of all, I guess everybody knows what a Purple Heart is. This is the Purple Heart. You get this for being wounded in action. In action.
And where were you wounded?
And this one here, this was in Kwajalein. Yeah. The Bronze Star, that's for being in a certain area in the South Pacific.
What
I
was
don't know
that
exactly.
area?
I don't know exactly the islands we were on over there, but there were the islands in the South Pacific. A group of islands.
Kwajalein and Leyte.
Yeah, Kwajalein, well, Leyte was in the Philippines. But all of that was part of it. This medal here was the what is it, Southeastern, ma'am, could you see? I don't even know what it
It's
says.
the Asiatic Pacific Campaign.
Asiatic Pacific Campaign. This was for anything that was in the Asiatic Pacific. If we landed on any island over there in those islands, in that area, we got a campaign medal for that. I don't know, I can't see them.
Looks like this one is the World War II Victory Medal.
Oh, thank God we won. We got a victory medal.
How about this one that has a rifle on it?
That's the infantry medal. Yeah, I was in the infantry. And of course, that's where most people are in the service, in the Army. That's the low branch of the service, but it's the, pardon me for saying it, but it's most heroic. That's the part, that's where the fighters are.
And this one in the middle says good conduct.
Oh man, I was a good sales. I was a good boy. I didn't get thrown in the guardhouse but once. It wasn't anything bad.
After you were wounded, Ms. Maloof, did you go back to Tripler? Is that where you had your recovery before you were shipped out again?
I was wounded in, gosh, I don't even remember where I was.
In Leyte.
At Leyte in the Philippines. And they patched me up and sent me back to the service as soon as I could. I guess I was back in action again less than 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Where did you go at that point?
Went right back into action.
Where?
with my division,
Leahy,
my
Dr.
7th
Lane,
Division at Leyte.
Leahy.
Yeah. So,
What happened after you got machine gunned in the leg,
yeah,
and they put you on a stretcher on a Jeep?
yeah. Well, they put me on a stretcher. And they carried me back to the camp, to the hospital, and patched me up.
What happened on the way back to the camp? Do you remember?
I can't remember much.
Were there some mortar shells and bombs?
Oh, everything happened. They blew me off the stretcher I was on.
How long were you out after that?
I survived it. You know, things like that. I mean, you know, you just don't get to even talk about it. It's embarrassing, really. But anyway, I'm thankful to be here.
When were you finally discharged?
10th?
June the 10th, 1942,
45.
45. Gosh, was that long? 1945. That was a long time.
Are there any other places where you served before you were discharged that you would like to tell us about? Experiences, memories of those areas?
Oh, I think more than anything else, it was a group of guys you were with. You become attached to them, and they're more like brothers than they are soldiers. And you eat with them and sleep with them and live with them, and it becomes a family. And that's what we were. We were a family. And we took care of each other. I don't care what happened. I mean, if one got hurt, everybody got hurt. And I guess, you know, it was a matter of taking care of each other.
So what you remember the most about that group is the camaraderie, the family feeling, the brothership.
There was nothing like it.
There must have been some humorous incidents in there. Do you remember a humorous incident?
Oh,
Something funny that happened to somebody?
we used to joke all the time and tell stories and things like that, and all different kinds of stories, but nothing unusual, nothing real unusual. Just when you're sitting around talking about different things, if the subject comes up and somebody will start talking about what happened to them and so forth, and it's interesting. But it was that way all the way.
You were gone for a couple of Christmases, I'd say 3 Christmases from what I can judge. How was it to be away at Christmas? Where were you and what was it like? How'd you feel?
I can't even remember where I was on these Christmases, but I was in a different place every time. I was down in the jungles for a long time. I remember that. And when I say the jungles, I mean that was down in, it was the jungles. But it's hard to pinpoint times when you don't keep track of. I just can't. I mean, my age, I mean, I'm lucky to remember I'm here. I can only thank you. I can tell you, I'm real thankful I'm back. And the good Lord took care of me. I'm telling you.
With the recent passing of Bob Hope and you being gone at Christmas, did you ever have an occasion to see one of his firsthand, one of his USO Christmas tours?
I did, down the South Pacific. He came came on the island down there, and we enjoyed it so much. I mean, he was like putting new life into us, and this was worth the trip. That's right. He was a man that I can't say enough about Bob Hope. He brought more joy to the soldiers than anybody I know of. I mean, he was, whatever he did or whatever he said, I mean, whether it was funny or not, it was good. And everybody thought that of him.
Did you,
We miss him.
would you like to talk about the Japanese flag that you brought with today?
Well, that flag, I got that flag off of,
Quadrillion.
yeah, it was on Kwajalein. And I hate to say it, but I got it off a dead body, of which he had it in his pocket. I know all this writing on it and so forth, I never did get it translated, but it's all in Japanese, and it was messages from his family and to his family and friends and things like that, and I never did find out exactly where it came from or how, but this was considered a great souvenir, and I treasure it. I brought it back, but that's where that flag came from.
Can you tell us about any of the other memorabilia you've brought?
No, I tell you what, you're just so happy to get back. You don't think about all that stuff till you get back here.
Is this your unit, or is that your unit?
This was my unit here.
That's at Camp Walters.
Yeah, this was my unit from basic training camp, Camp Walters, Texas, where we first enlisted. And from Camp Walters, they sent us all over the country.
How about that picture over there? What's that group picture?
Which one is that?
Is that in California?
This is a company picture of my company, complete company. After this, this was after this.
Yeah, this was basic training.
Right.
And that was your...
And this more or less all the guys that we ended up together. And we fought and stayed together all that time. And some great guys in here. The majority of these fellas didn't come back. Some of us were lucky and some wasn't quite as lucky. Brings back many memories.
And I'm sure some very painful memories
Yeah.
of the fellows who were your friends and who were lost.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Have you ever had any desire to go back and visit those areas now in the Pacific where you were at that point? You know, like they've just had, what, a 50th anniversary, and a whole group of gentlemen went to France for Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, all that.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that or had any desire to?
I haven't really done that, and I don't know whether I'd really like to do that or not. I mean, it would bring back too many
many
memories.
painful
Yeah,
memories.
it's most of the guys I went with got killed. I mean, we got wiped out. We were over there in the early part of the war, and we were more or less the front runners, and so we took the brunt of it. And a lot of them got wounded. I got hit several times. My legs are all shot up. Thank God it was in my legs. But survived.
That's it. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? Any other stories, memories, places you were at this point? Anything else you'd like to share?
Well, it's just hard to just come right off the top and say something, you know. It's a lot of things I'd like to have shared, but it's hard. I'm afraid I'd leave so much out, I might hurt somebody's feelings, and then I might say something that I'd be sorry I said, and might bring back some memories that I don't want to hear about.
Well, all right, then let's fast forward to 1944, 1945, when you were honorably discharged.
Oh boy.
What did you do? How did you meet Mrs. Maloof? When did you meet Mrs. Maloof?
Before the war. We were childhood friends. We were childhood sweethearts. And the greatest woman I ever met. Now I said it publicly.
What was her maiden name, Dad?
Huh?
What was her maiden name?
Mansour. Dolores Mansour. And her family was from Barnesville, Georgia. Great family.
And you have been blessed with all these children,
Oh, I don't know.
grandchildren.
How many we got, y'all?
You had 6 children,
6?
and you got, how many
Pam can tell you
grandchildren we
more
got?
about it. 6?
We have 4 grandchildren and 1 on the way.
4 grandchildren, 4 on the way. And
What did you do for your career after the war? What was your career?
well, I went back to work. I went to Johnson Lane. That was my company, stock brokerage company. I went back to work for them. I worked there for many years.
Until you retired, or,
Yeah,
so you were there for your entire career?
right. I'm really there now, but they're kind of on a retired basis.
Semi-retired.
Yeah. Of course, my son, we've been together all these years, and we've worked together in the same company. Got a great family. Of course, I hate to talk about my family with them sitting there, but they were great. It's my daughter Laura, and Judy, Steve, my wife, son-in-law, Pam, or Rita's a daughter. Don't let me forget Rita. So I've had a big family, a great family, and there's nothing can replace them. Now, y'all owe me something.
Pam, can you think of anything else that your dad might like to have on this that you can think of to add?
I can think of some particular instances that I was hoping he would talk about.
What's that?
One about what it was like to come off of those boats out of the water.
Well, if you do it once, you don't want to ever do it again.
And how many times did you do it?
I don't know, 5, 6 times, I guess. But once you come off those boats, you just don't know whether you're going to come back or not.
How did you get the guys off the boats?
I almost had to shove them off. First time we were all anxious to go. I mean, we just wanted to hurry up and let's go get them, boy. Let's get them. Let's go get those Japs and let's get back home, you know. Second time, kind of pushed us a little bit. Third time, they had a gun in our bag. We didn't want to get off the boats. And it was that tough.
And
Some of 'em.
and how did you sleep on the island? What did you do to sleep?
We didn't sleep. You just slept when you had a chance to sleep. Just when you fell asleep, you fell asleep. You had a buddy system, and wherever you were, you always had a buddy with you. You take care of him, and he take care of you.
Did you have to dig a foxhole? And
Oh yeah, you lived in that foxhole. You learned to dig, you learned to live in it, you learned to eat in it, you learned to sleep in it, you learned to bathe in it. A helmet of water, you take a bath in a helmet of water, and things like that. I mean, that was the kind of life you had to live. But you learn that in a hurry. That's the tough part.
you wrote an article for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution magazine in May of 1944 that describes the capturing of the Japanese flag and the whole events that went around that. And he had that article with him as well. And in the
There's a
article, you
copy
talked
of
about
it.
pillboxes.
Yeah.
What is it?
Pillbox, they built the pillboxes out of concrete. And they were anything from 1 or 2 inches thick to 4 and 5, 6 inches thick. And there's no way you could penetrate it with a bullet. I mean, you just don't shoot it, shoot a bullet through that stuff. And they got in those pill boxes, and there wasn't no way to get them out. And of course, they had holes in them where they could shoot out, but you couldn't, unless you were real lucky, you wouldn't go hit them. But those pill boxes were built. They knew what they were doing when they were building them. And they built them to live in. And they lived in them. And the only way we could do it, we hated to say this, but the only way we could do it was to burn them out. And that's when we started using flamethrowers. We'd take those flamethrowers and throw it in on a pill box and just burn it up. Set it afire and kill everything in it. Horrible, horrible situation.
Do you remember what else the Japanese used the first time when y'all were in battle? With the airplanes?
Kamikazes, yeah. They used to come over and intentionally, they'd have these kamikaze planes, and they would intentionally just dive bomb and kill themselves. But in the meantime, the plane would be loaded with bombs and everything, and they would kill a lot of us, a lot of our soldiers and things, because they would dive bomb right into a big crowd, or where there's a lot of soldiers. But this is the way they fought. There was nothing honorable about fighting. When you're fighting, it's your life against their life. And that's what you got to look at. Either you kill me or I kill you. It's a horrible situation to be in. If you've never been in that situation, a hand-to-hand fight is about the roughest thing you can get hold of. That's jump in a trench and find that a soldier in there or something, or an opposing soldier in there, and you had to hand-to-hand fight and fight to the death. That's horrible. Y'all don't want to hear about that. That's no good. Never want to see it again. Okay, and
I really mean it.
this flag, I don't know where it came from exactly, except it did come off a dead Japanese soldier. I brought it back. I don't know what it says. I've been ashamed to ask some Japanese to read it to me, especially since I was over there, because I didn't know what was going to be on it, but I know it wasn't good.
Dad, do you remember the number on your dog tags? You got your dog tags there. Do you remember your serial number?
345769776. You don't ever forget that number.
All right.
No.
Anything else?
No, I hope I told a little story.
You did.
I don't know how good it was, but anyway, that's about the way it was. It wasn't a picnic at any time. No. It was horrible. I married my childhood sweetheart.
Mr. Maloof, we're going to go back into the tape. I'd like you to share some of your thoughts, feelings, some interesting dates when you were married, and we'll introduce your wife.
Good. When were we married, honey?
See that? You were married September the 5th, 1955.
September the 5th, 1955. My wife's original name was Dolores Maria Dolores Mansour. And I changed it to Maloof. What else?
Well, I was one of the many girls that wrote to him when he was in the service.
But she was the only one I loved.
But anyway, it was several years after he got back before we got married.
And we have, how many children do we have?
We had 6 children.
We had 6 children. And
You have 4 grandchildren now, and we're expecting another one.
have 4 grandchildren.
One One
expect.
thing about both of us that is unique is that we are both native Atlantans, and there are not many of us around.
We knew each other in high school.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to commercial high, and she went to Sacred Heart. No.
Neither one of the schools was still in existence.
So I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was.
When you finished at commercial, did you go on to college?
University of Georgia.
What did you do at the University of Georgia?
I graduated from Georgia. And what year, Steve?
1947, 1948, I think.
1948.
Got your ring on, got
Oh,
you.
I forgot. Yeah. Where is it? 1948. Yeah, 48.
So you finished college, or you went to college, I guess,
I
on the GI
graduated.
Bill after you had been discharged from the Army?
Right.
And do you remember what happened in Georgia with the dean and when the men were coming back from the war and they were trying to have rat day, kind of?
I created a problem at the university.
What'd you do?
Tell us.
Huh?
Tell us.
Well, it was like this. They were having this rat day and stuff, and of course all the freshmen back at that time, you know, freshmen used to come into school and they used to have a picnic on beating up the freshmen. And so when I got there, we were all veterans. And they had these little kids coming around wanting to beat us up. And then we said, that ain't gonna go very far. About the second, third time that happened, you know what I mean, we turned tables on them and we cleaned house. And they got rid of all this freshman class hazing and all that kind of stuff. They cut it out because of the veterans coming to school. The veterans just wasn't going to be allowed. We just said, we ain't going to let these young punks come in here and beat up on us. After all, we've had all our lickings. This is the truth. And so at that time, that was at the university, we stopped the hazing and stuff down there in all the freshman classes. And of course, I know in a way that was bad because that's something that freshmen always look forward to. But to an old veteran coming back, he don't want nobody beating on him. Believe me. But they understood. And we got along fine. We didn't have any real trouble with them anymore, but somebody had to teach them, and I guess it was our job to do it. So it was me. To a degree.